Ah, I see you finally arrived. Certainly took you long enough.
Yep, hello, here I am. Although I don't really know why
I take it you found the place all right?
Yeah, this isn't actually my first time here. A few years back, I participated in a documentary-style case called Following...
Enough chatter! We don't have all day. Let's get this thing started.
Get what started exactly?
Welcome to DeBunker.
Yeah, I know we're in the bunker, but what are we doing here?
No, I'm saying this is DeBunker.
Yeah, you already... Oh, I get it. You want me to debunk things in the bunker, hence debunker. Okay, all right, I get it. I'm all caught up now. But wait a minute. What happened to my helmet?
We confiscated it because of its unknown technological potential. And also because of lighting and angles and stuff. You know how it is.
Of course.
You know how it is, isn't it? My associate and I have prepared a cross-section of questions sourced from the My Singing Monsters community, all about the rumors, mysteries, and behind-the-scenes secrets. And the way I sees it, you, sir, are in a position to answer them once and for all.
Wait, which associate? Didn't I see Chief Inspector Blabbit leaving the bunker on my way in?
Yes, the Chief Inspector was summoned away to investigate a separate disturbance. But don't worry, another white-haired member of the staff is on hand to assist with the interview.
White-haired?
Indeed, and believe me, he ain't nice like I am. He ain't gonna hold nothing back. So, I strongly suggest that you cooperate and answer the questions to the best of your ability. Take it away, partner. Me, I'm gonna go take a bubble break.
Boom.
Bill, what are you doing here?
Boom.
Since when are you a detective?
Boom.
You took a correspondence course? Actually, that's pretty impressive. Good on you, man.
Boom.
Okay. We can get started. Sheesh, it's a good thing I'm fluent in caption.
Bum. Bum. Bum.
Well, that's a fitting question to start with. SING is an organization that's short for the Strange Investigation of Neglected Grievances. And this was a Monster World detective department that was created specifically for following the trail all those years ago. And we just thought it would be funny if Blabbit had its own detective agency. It operates exclusively in the monster world, but it's a bit of just behind-the-scenes fun for us. Obviously, the acronym SING is very fitting for My Singing Monsters.
Bum. 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 Bum.
The warm place that's alluded to in Shugabush's bio is where Christian Bush grew up, the great state of Tennessee. And that's the warm place that we were talking about in the bio. It's as simple as that.
Bum. 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 Bum.
Yes, the hex element debate. Yeah, I mean, we thought that this would be totally fitting for Wubbox. It sort of represents the pinnacle of monster achievement, and of course it can box all of the natural and fire elements inside. Of course there's super ethereal stuff as well, but never mind that. But yeah, the hex elemental, it just always sort of made sense to us, and obviously more recently we've tried to lean into that and establish that a little bit more, but I don't know, it's always just sort of made sense to us.
Bum. 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 Bum.
So Voidcorn actually began as a fake opponent that we created during the development of the Colosseum in battle mode. It was just something so that our quality assurance team had someone to play against when we were testing both PvE and PvP, mostly PvP, the versus mode. And then yeah, just the notion of Voidcorn stuck. We just thought it was funny. And so we decided to reinvent Voidcorn as the source of all bugs and issues and errors, and then you gave it a permanent home in the game, both in the message that you get when the announcements fail to load, and also, of course, as the special costume from our 12th anniversary celebration.
Bum. 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 bum.
As far as the canon appearance of Voidcorn, yeah, I think that appearance in the announcement that appears in game is pretty close. I mean, we tried to recreate it faithfully as well as we could in the costume, but you know, sort of a furcorn of ones and zeros, right? It's part of it's the ghost in the machine, that kind of thing. So that's the sort of aesthetic that we were going for with Voidcorn.
Bum 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 bum.
Yeah, we thought that this would be clear from the get-go, but yeah, Bamibeth's lyrics say, "Stay here, not sing here," was the idea of being confined to the workshop. Our song is simply too unstable. The official lyric from Landon is "Stay here, not sing here," and it's like a new phrase, other than like a continuation of the previous line. So yeah, "Stay here" is official.
Bum 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 bum.
No, the Dipsters do not have an underground society that I know of, but I did want to take this opportunity to segue into talking about the canonicity of those Dipster bodies that we put on social media a few years ago. Like I said at the time, it was sort of the theories of one particular monstrologist, monster biologist. Do the Dipsters actually have those bodies underneath? To be honest with you, we haven't actually decided fully one way or another. We want to sort of keep ourselves open-ended that if we ever do want to depict more Dipster bodies in the future, maybe we'd pull from those designs, maybe we'd create new ones. You know, it's all about the element of surprise for us, right? So if it's something that we've already shown, we want to be able to surprise and delight our community. And so who knows, maybe the authenticity of those designs is once again up for debate. Who knows?
Bum 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 bum.
Elder Celestials, never heard of him. Where did you get that crazy idea?
Elder forms, and that on some distant day in the future, the Celestials in their adult forms may ascend once again to this other form.
What a momentous day that will be.
It certainly will be, and I wonder when it'll be. I wonder if it'll be August 2024. We'll have to see in roughly a year's time. And of course,
Bum bum bum.
As far as the toroidal world is concerned, never really thought of it in terms of it being a CD or a vinyl. More of a donut, like literally like a donut. There's actually a prototype version of like an opening cinematic that we created where the toroidal monster world actually transitions into a donut that Mammoth then eats. So we think that kind of thing is funny. Donut worlds are crazy, man.
Bum 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 bum.
Well, they go into the playground, of course. Fun fact, when we were developing My Singing Monsters Playground, we'd had the name Playground selected for a while because we thought that it was fitting for the kind of game that we were making with that sort of, couch co-op sort of, competitive play kind of thing. But the actual establishment of it being inside the Wubbox was something that happened towards the end of production, and it came about when we happened upon the fact that we already used the word playground in the Wubbox bio back when it was released in like 2013. So we were like, perfect, let's link these two together. And of course, for a while there, people were saying, well, there are monsters inside of the playground that don't actually appear in Wubbox. You know, there's like fanglers and flowers running around and dipsters and whatever. And for the most part, that's all sort of been canonically reconciled now that we've got Wubbox on so many islands. We've got it on the Fire Island. So all that stuff is now perfectly clear and canon safe once again. Nice, nice.
Bum 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 bum.
Why did we start doing that? Mostly to prevent stuff from being leaked or data mined. We show this stuff off in the trailers now at the beginning of an event, even if they're not coming on that day specifically, because the way that our release schedule works, we like to sort of batch these things together and push them all up at once, as opposed to having to test and go through all of the cycles of testing every single week. And so we've sort of switched up our strategy a little bit. Also, it gives you something neat to look forward to if you get a sneak peek of it in a Monster Handler short and you know that it's coming at some point during an event. You get to see it there first. And so, yeah, that's why we started doing that.
Bum bum, bum.
So in code, every element corresponds to a different letter. And so air is A, plant is B, earth is C, water D, cold E, and then the same for the ethereal elements and magical elements and stuff like that. In terms of like what the association is between each, I'm actually not sure. I know that it was decided a long time ago that Plant Island be our starting island, and that configuration of elements was how it was going to be, but we didn't necessarily choose off the bat, okay, you know, the first island is going to be A, B, C, D, or, you know, the next one then A, B, C, E, or anything like that. Honestly, it just came down to which creatively made sense to follow in sequence with each other. And you're right that it is kind of random and arbitrary, but it's that sort of decision making where we want to craft the best experience possible. It allows us to be agile and versatile and change these things around as we want to make the best game possible.
Bum, 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 bum.
So yes, initially what we now know as the Magical Islands began life as Fire Islands, and we were just going to endlessly make Fire Islands. We'd only created 4 of them, so there wasn't one that was going to be created for each of the fire element quads. But in the middle of production, we thought, you know what, this is our opportunity, and we're missing it here, to introduce a brand new set of characters and to make these islands extra special. So we took those sounds and sort of gave them new voices and reinterpreted them as the magical monsters, and that's what you can hear. In many cases, you'd have a part that was previously sung by one monster that's now being performed by a magical monster.
Bum, 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 bum.
As far as the fire expansion sounds were created, yeah, you'd expect that we'd be able to go back and just source those original recordings, but like I said before, a lot of those parts were actually already taken over by magical monsters. So for the fire expansion musical parts, they were composed all brand new specifically for that feature. I think probably they drew some musical inspiration from what came before, but we didn't want to double up so much so that they didn't feel special and unique on their own right. And so, yeah, they were newly created specifically for fire expansion.
Bum.
So if you want to imagine what the Magical Islands sounded like before they became Fire Islands, you don't have to do much imagining. It's all the same tonal parts, the same melodic lines, but they're just being sung by different monsters. You know what? Just to sort of put the issue to rest, let's just play a quick soundbite of all of them layered on top of each other so you can listen to it right now. There, that's all you needed.
Bum, 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 bum.
Pong Ping's old design has been kicking around on our servers, and it's been previously described as spherical and having gangly limbs and whatnot. It was eventually replaced by the Water Island Quad, the boss Shellbeat, but for the very first time, you know what? Let's just show it. Here it is. Here's the original Pong Ping design. There, you happy now? And you can see that when it came time to actually design Pong Ping in its new form, we wanted to lean more in, we wanted to recycle the paddle imagery, but give it a new lease on life and come up with its current beloved vermiform design.
Bum, bum, bum.
It's so funny to me that the sounds of Mimic were characterized as outtake sounds, and I know that former Monster Handler Dave has said that exactly in his own communications with the community. But that's so funny because at the same time that he and former Monster Handler Maggie came in to record sounds for the young seasonals in Dawn of Fire and some of the sounds for Ethereal Workshop, that's when we got all the Mimic sounds as well. So like, were they outtakes? No, I don't think so. We asked Dave to get in front of the microphone and make a bunch of Mimic sounds, and we used some of them. So it makes me think back to the early days of working on Plant Island, and that was one of the things that was exciting at that time when Monster Hunter Dave was giving me voice acting direction. It was like, yeah, just try out a bunch of different things and we'll see which one that we choose after the fact. So I sort of see that as exactly what happened with the Mimic as well. He may think that it's different, but I for the record, I don't think that they're outtakes, and I think they sound great.
Bum, 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 bum.
I know a lot of people think this, but no, the epic mythicals are not specifically designed to be related to their home island's seasonal event. There are maybe some similarities there, especially for the first two that went out, but certainly in the case of the Ultimate Creator epic mythicals, no. Those are being designed in consultation with their thoughts and ideas and creativity, and they're not specifically related to their seasonal events. This is more of a community thing where they're like, oh, it must be, it must be. Nope, not specifically. They are what they are.
Bum 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 bum.
In my opinion, there are no made-up holidays in My Singing Monsters seasonal event calendar. A lot of folks have said that Monculus and Spirit have made-up ones, but for Spirit specifically, Museum Day is in May, and in our opinion, that sort of associates with the idea of lifelong learning and appreciating the world around you and striving to understand how things work, all themes of Purple Explore. But in the case of Monculus and Life Formula, the very first ethereal was released in June of 2013, Gast. So all things to do with like ethereals and the pocket dimension and sort of like the experience of creating the game creator things are sort of being celebrated alongside Life Formula as well. So no, I don't think that any of them are arbitrary or made up. I think that each of them has their reason and their season.
Bum 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 bum.
Because we want them to sound different. Remixes, Monster Handler mixes, official soundtrack versions, in-game versions. There's going to be variations in each because music as an art form, I think intrinsically lends itself to little tweaks and variations to make it fresh. Now, there are exceptions to that rule, and the specific example here of Cranchy's unused track on Mythical Island is one that we had composed, and when we were filling out the island and designing future dream mythicals and stuff like that, we thought that it made the part too busy, but that didn't happen when we actually went to push out Cranchy and the track was there in the data and people found it and whatever. And so we thought it was a fun way to pay homage to that unused track by including it in the the streaming version that we made available on streaming platforms, just as a way to sort of recognize, yeah, oops, we made a little mistake there, but whatever, if you want to enjoy it in this form, you at least now have recourse to do so.
Bum 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 bum.
Oh, you flatterer. Well, I mean, a lot of the information is contained up in here, but, you know, we do have a lore Bible that is maintained and that we keep up with and that we try and stay on top of, resolve inconsistencies and make connections where there were none before. I think the important thing to remember is that this is a creative undertaking that has evolved alongside My Singing Monsters, the backstory and knowing the lore of what's going on. Sometimes it's an off-the-cuff response, but it's an off-the-cuff response that comes from a place of knowledge and of familiarity with the brand. I remember the very first bio that I ever wrote was for Water Island, and it was just an offhanded comment, the unfathomable depths of the living ocean. At that point, living ocean didn't mean anything. And now it's come to mean a bunch of things. The water of the living ocean has mutagenic properties and I was addicted to it or whatever. But I just want to remind everybody that, especially when you're going to do a creative undertaking, you don't have to sort it all out at the beginning. Sometimes you can find these exciting things, these discoveries along the way, and that can be just as rewarding as laying out the whole plan in advance. Sometimes you just gotta enjoy the ride.
And so ends this edition of DeBunker. As per usual, questions beget questions, and the mysteries of the monster world are never-ending. But so too is Blabbit's mission to get to the bottom of each and every single mystery someday. Until then, always keep a pointy ear out, and happy monstering.